Okay, this is my professional development project on remediation programs. Paul Spadero, assistant principal at St. James Middle School, and that shows my professional development project on implementing a remediation program here at St. James Middle to improve student achievement. So let's get started. The program I'm using for my professional development project is Camtasia Studio. You should be able to see what I see, and you should be able to hear me pretty clearly. So it's a very good software program to do asynchronous presentations, and I hope you enjoy and have no technical issues during my professional development project. If you saw Ms. Ambrose's professional development project on the Baldridge process of, understanding and improving school performance, she showed us, what happens at the district level about how to. It's a framework for continuous improvement, and I think that's what we're looking for, each and every school year, to improve our school, improve our students and our staff to continue moving forward. So I'm kind of show you the framework at the school level. The district level office is more of the architects. They kind of design the building plan, and at the school level, we build a building, and we get to work and to make sure that the plan is effective, and it shows school continuous improvement from year to year. So at the school level, we want to improve our students, and most specifically our test scores and their knowledge of standards, that they're being taught every year. So to implement a remediation program, we have to look at the data first, and what does the data show? And in 2014, on our PASS data, which is the end of course test that all of our students take, our middle school students, they take it in math, ELA, all students, and in science and social studies it's randomly picked, so not every student takes the PASS test in science, about half of them do. So I was looking at 6th grade science, and on the 6th grade science PATH 2014 test, 77% of students scored met and exemplary on the science test. Okay, that was the highest percentage of not met students in the school, so 23%. So out of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, ELA, science, and social studies PASS data, the one that really stood out was 6th grade science, because we had the highest percentage of not met at 23%. We had the lowest percentage of exemplary students in the school at 26%. So out of all the tests throughout all grade levels and subject areas, the lowest percentage of exemplary students was from 6th grade science. So that was a cause for concern as well. 3-year trend of percentage of met and exemplary students. This is just 6th grade science. In 2012, 83%. 2013, 85%, had a good jump last year. And then this past spring, we dropped 8% from 85 to 77 on the 6th grade science PASS test. To disaggregate the data even further, students with IEPs, 60% were not met on the 6th grade science PASS test. African Americans, 43% not met. Hispanics, 33% were not meeting the standard. Subsidized meals, your free and reduced lunch students, 28% were not met, and white students were also not met. So when we analyzed the data team and the admin team over the summer of this, before the school year started, this was our weakest area on the PASS test. So being the 6th grade administrator, I felt like we had to create an action plan and to develop something to, improve these test scores and improve, our teaching and learning with 6th grade science. Some more data we looked at over the summer before the school year started. Of course, we talked about the 3-year trend here. And when you compare it to math, ELA, writing, and social studies, the science is still lacking. It's not as strong subject area as the other ones. As you can see, 83% were met and exemplary in 2012 compared to social studies 90%. and compared to math, 85, and ELA, 85. Or 85, yeah, looking at 6th grade. And then in spring of 2013, again, we're 85%. Met and exemplary was 33% in 2013. And then in 2014, we only had 26% of our students met and exemplary compared to 33% last year. So we saw a little dip there with students moving, to the exemplary range. Let me make this a little clearer for you. Again, the data is disaggregated by ethnicity, race. Make this a little clearer. Okay, here we go. So again, breaks down the data this past 6th grade science. Start with gender here, and as you can see, the males outperformed the females last year with science, and I guess that's kind of from past history that males are stronger in math and science, and females tend to be stronger in ELA and writing. But out here in the 6th grade science pass test, the males did outperform the females. In the exemplary range, they were met 48%, and then of course the not met percentage of males was 22%. Compared to 23% for females. And then it disaggregates together with the whites. Of course, there is an achievement gap here with 6th grade science. You can see that 29% of whites were exemplary, and only 10% of African Americans, 9% Hispanic. And then the percentage of not met was a lot lower in whites. Only 18% were not met. Whites, and as you can see here, 43% African Americans were not met, and 36%. So the Hispanics outperformed the African Americans as well. Of course, big cause of concern is students with disabilities taking the PASS test. They do get accommodations or oral administration, small group testing. But as you can see here, there's about 60% of our students with IEPs are not meeting the standard, which is a big cause for concern. We see that across a lot of the subject areas and grade levels. It's 60-40, meaning 60% are not meeting the standard and 40% are. Kind of a consistent number we're seeing with our students with IEPs, our special education students. And of course, compare that with students without IEPs, and 18% are not meeting the standard compared to 60. So that's a big gap right there with our IEP students and students without IEPs. Free and subsidized, as you can see, paid meals and subsidized, bit of a big gap here, 36% compared to 16 exemplar students. But you can see in the MET range, a lot of our students with free and reduced lunch, they kind of hover in this area, and we really want these kids to move up. And we seem like we can move the free and reduced lunch students from not MET 1 and not MET 2 to MET, but we do have a hard time moving these students from MET to exemplar 4 or 5. So we really want to focus on moving not only the not MET students to the MET range, but we really want to move our MET students to the exemplary range. And the reason being is that the more students we have showing exemplary scores on the PASS test, the more points we get added to our ESA school letter grade, our federal accountability system, and our school report card. So the more, that's how they calculate, our school report card and our school letter grade. And then that was a cause for concern this year because we had a school letter grade in 2013, but in 2014 we slipped to a B. And the reason being is that we didn't move enough students to this range, and we didn't move enough students from not MET to MET. So hopefully, looking at that and implementing a remediation program will get that school letter grade hopefully back to an A, after this year. Again, nice graphs here. As you can see, it disaggregates by gender. We talked about gender, ethnicity. We talked about the achievement gap still going on, and of course the cause for concern is students with disabilities, a lot of not MET students, and the free and reduced lunch. So that breaks down the data even further and made our decision easier as to what we're going to do with 6th grade science. So not only did the admin team reflect on the data, but we also had our science teachers reflect on the data and answer questions. We wanted them to identify the trends and patterns. Are they seeing the same things we are? And we wanted them to write SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. We wanted to have them write a SMART goal with their GBE, their goals-based evaluation, and we kind of all wrote it together, so we all have the same goal in mind for the 2014-2015 school year. And the things that they collaborated on, and this is like the first day back, we actually had every teacher, every collaboration team do this, every math, ELA, science, and social studies across every grade level and every subject area, and they met as a collaboration team in our staff meeting, and they answered these questions after reflecting on the data that I just showed you, and what patterns are noticeable, what they were stating, and list 3 strategies to increase student success in your content area. Working with reading strategy teachers for retests, utilizing our technology, our apps, our PDL, so using USA Test Prep and vocab strategies, allow retests so students master the content. What stands out to your collaboration team when you looked at the demographics. Of course, African Americans, disabled, and females stood out to them. 6th grade science. What trends and patterns are noticeable when you looked over the data for the last 3 years? Of course, there's a dip in exemplary from 2013 and 14. And what are your goals, this year as a collaboration team? Increase the percentage of African Americans, and increase the percentage of disabled students from exemplary. So we really want to get these numbers up, for our school report card and our accountability ESA, federal accountability to, improve. So it's really not just, we had an off year, but there's been some concerns with our 6th grade science department. And we do have 4 6th grade science teachers. It's not the strongest collaboration team we have in the school. And of course, the data reflects that. We talked about what we can do differently. Some teachers are sitting by myself, or they feel like they're not working cohesively together. They weren't having any common assessments. They're kind of just doing their own thing. They weren't discussing data except for their own individual. So, I think reaffirming and restating our collaboration meetings, kind of changing those around and kind of setting some ground rules and some non-negotiables, during our meetings. 6th grade science and myself and the curriculum coach meet every Tuesday from 11:15 to 11:45, and from 2:45 to 3:30. So Tuesdays is our meeting day, and then we go over the curriculum map, the support document, the state standards. We're going to come up with common assessments, and we're going to develop instructional strategies, how to implement blended learning 2 to 3 days a week, and kind of all get on the same page and really focus on what's best for our students and how can we move our students forward. So the first collaboration meeting, I brought this T-chart, kind of saying non-negotiables of what we need to do to improve student achievement, show school improvement from year to year. And I started out with what collaboration is and is not. And I wanted us to start saying we, not saying I. I wanted us to let's work together about this. All have the same goal, because teachers really want to be successful. They really want their students to do well when push comes to shove. So let's work together to accomplish the task at hand to improve student achievement this year in 6th grade science. It's not working alone. We don't want you shutting your door and just isolating yourself. I know we have weekly scheduled collaboration meetings, but I also wanted them to meet a lot informally. We want to start designing common assessments, and it's not individual assessments. And for our remediation program to work, I explained this at our first meeting, is like if we don't have common assessments, our remediation program is not going to work, because there's going to be one teacher teaching 4 different science students. So those students need to kind of all be on the same page if that teacher is going to reach the needs of all those students. So this was a non-negotiable. We needed to give out the same informal assessment or formal assessment or summative. assessment. That was a non-negotiable. We had to do that together. And it's not individual assessments. Meeting daily, meeting informally. Actually, scheduled our lunch duty by collaboration team this year. So not only will they be meeting informally, but also eating lunch together. I think just developing that relationship with each other. They don't necessarily have to be talking about standards and strategies and support documents. They can just be talking about how their day's going or how their lesson went. Just real informed, just building that relationship with each other that they're lacking right now. And it's just not meeting with no end in mind, no objective, no agenda. We're going to analyze data together. We're going to break down the past data. We're going to break down our benchmark data. We're going to do some item analysis to see what standards the students are struggling with. And you're just not going to just look at your data by yourself. We're going to look at all students' data. And it's teaching all students, and it's not just teaching my classes. It's dividing, conquering, and sharing, and it's not planning the entire lesson. So we want to make collaboration easier on the student. We don't want to make it harder. And we want to, like we say a lot, we want to, work smarter, not harder. I think that's our saying here. And this is working smarter on this column, and this is working harder. So let's work smarter. And teacher expressed his concerns. We don't plan together. We do our own thing, planning own lessons, look at my own data, not doing as a unit, go too fast, pace and guide, click it and teach it, not much time left. So teachers expressed their concerns in this meeting, and we kind of came up with these strategies to address them. So I've been doing some research and some learning about implementing a remediation program for students that we just talked about. The students that are falling through the cracks, that aren't moving forward, like our African Americans, special education students. How can we move those students forward? And math and ELA have strategic intervention programs like Read 180 Math. We have a writing class. We have SAT prep. So I figured, well, if math and ELA are getting some support, let's give some support to science, because that's our weakest area right now, because that's what the data is showing us. So all science teachers must work together in order for the program to be successful. Common assessments include labs, quizzes, and tests. Everyone's doing the same thing. Everyone's giving the same assessment, so the data isn't skewed. Students will be selected by implementing standards-based grading into science assessments. This will be the criteria for selecting students in the remediation program. I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of research on standards-based grading. I've seen a lot of school districts and schools be successful with it. Basically what standards-based grading is, it's a method for teachers to measure how students are doing in meeting the learning goals for their grade as determined by their state standards. And what's basically doing is it just grades you on summative assessments and what standards students are mastering. And the students, they're not selected if, for example, if they get 80s on all of their assessments, but they're not doing their homework or they're not doing their classwork and they're failing, those students will not be in the remediation program. Contrary to that, if a student has a 90 in the class but has 60s on all of their assessments, those students will qualify. And it's 80 or below. If a student is getting 80 or below on any assessment in science, they will be targeted and they will be in the remediation program. Again, criteria, kind of just went over that a little bit. Any student receiving on an assessment after retest will be targeted. Okay, so the criteria for student selection in the remediation program is, any student receiving less than a 80 on an assessment after retest or requiz will be targeted. 3 science teachers will select up to 30 students for 1 science teacher to remediate. We did have 4 science teachers. 1 resigned about 2 weeks into the school year, so I didn't want to use her students or data because I thought it wouldn't be correct. So we hired a new science teacher who just got started. So her students will actually enter the remediation program in our second unit, which is energy. The first unit that all the science teachers are teaching right now is plants. Students will have a letter sent home requiring a parent's signature. We also want to get the parents in the community involved in this as well. We want to really promote this, that we're trying to help and improve their students' grade, their child's grade. We've got a lot of great feedback from this, that we are trying to go the extra mile to move students forward in 6th grade science. And of course, our goals this year, we want to increase students' knowledge of plant standards. That's what we're doing right now, the plant unit. We want to increase students' grade on summative assessments. We do take district level benchmark exams. I'm going to share that data with you later. We also want to improve their science grade and their knowledge of science. And we also want to prepare students for district science benchmark exam and exceed district scoring average. That's our goal. This is the letter I sent home, and just want to, this is why we're doing this. We want to make sure that we're successful in district and state exams. We initiated a structured school remediation program. We're calling it Nest Time. I didn't want to say it's a remediation program to the community and to the parents and students. I didn't want to get a negative impression of it, so we just titled it Nest Time. We're Eagles here at St. James Middle. Figured that Nest Time would be a good slogan to use. It's not you're in trouble, or it's not because you're slow or anything like that. We just want to make sure that we give you extra help and extra support in the Eagles Nest. So we started the program on September 24th. Opportunity for targeted students to assist on the upcoming district science benchmark test and the South Carolina PASS test. That we're taking in the year, explaining that. We're not going to focus on homework or classwork completion, but actually on classroom instruction, from a certified teacher who will teach a lesson 3 days a week. Talked about the standards-based grading from the theory of mastery learning and how we want students to master 6th grade science standards. We're going to offer this help during their 2020 times from 8:15 to 9 o'clock, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They'll be in remediation. And they'll retake their summative assessment after receiving, 2 remediation lessons. So basically Wednesday is remediate, Thursdays we're going to reassess them, and Friday they're going to retest. So remediate, reassess, and retest will be our block lesson plan format for the remediation program. And we definitely want your support. Explain why we're doing this, how we're doing this. We've targeted these students who need extra help in mastering 6th grade science standards. Of course, I left my contact information on the letter. The student who was targeted had to sign it. Parent had to sign it, bring it back to me, and then they can enter the remediation program. So talked a little bit about the logistics, but through collaborative team planning, each science teacher will remediate a unit throughout the year. So we have Teacher 1 doing the plant unit, Teacher 2 energy, Teacher 3 weather, Teacher 4 animals. We identified students will go through their remediation 3 days per week from 8:15 to 9 o'clock. And of course the format is Wednesday we'll be remediating, Thursday we'll be reassessing, and Friday is when they get to retest their summative assessment if they got an 80 or below. PDSA and professional development. Again, what Ms. Ambrose and her professional development plan, she talked about PDSA, and this is again for continual school improvement through the Baldrige process. We also get allocated money for professional development so goals can be attained. And of course, part of our PDSA plan this year at St. James Middle is at least 85% of our students will score met and above on the 2015 Science Pass. So I actually have an investment in our PDSA plan this year as a subject area and grade level, and hopefully we can reach and attain that goal we set forth this year. And of course, we're going to use money to allocate to our science department for the remediation program. We're going to visit other schools, plan remediation lessons and assessments. Thank Dr. Gear for giving me an idea of giving some teachers some half-day planning to plan out lessons, because like I said, what we're doing in the classroom isn't working, so what other instructional strategies are we going to do in these remediation lessons to reach the needs of all of our students? We're also going to send some science teachers to other schools in the area that have high achievement in science, in 6th grade science, and they're going to get some strategies and some feedback from other schools, but we're also going to share strategies as well, so it's a win-win situation for a couple other middle schools in the district. Kind of get this a little clearer for you for our PDSA plan. And of course, 85% of students will be score met and above in the 2015 Science Pass Test. It's our goal for, and here's our plan. You know, all students are being identified, analyze the data which we talked about, continuous data analysis on the benchmark scores, continued data analysis of benchmark cycle and common assessments. We had GBE conferences to discuss this data. We all wrote the same GBE goal, which is 85% of your students will be met and exemplary on the PASS test. You know, following the consensus map and the pacing guide for science. You know, the digital content we'll use both in and in the remediation program is Discovery Ed, Gizmo, USA Test Prep, and other online resources. Plan for frequent observations, CW3 walkthroughs, and provide weekly remediation lessons. This is where this comes in. During our 2020 time, and all the things we're going to do about it: collaborative planning, common assessments. We're going to analyze data with the teachers. We're going to visit schools that have exemplary scores. We're going to attend conferences increasing academic performance like the National Middle School Conference, and provide ongoing staff development for PDL. Every Thursday we have a digital integration specialist implementing PD and trying to get as many blended learning lessons in our classes as possible. And we're going to analyze 2014. We already did that. You know, we're going to monitor and support new initiatives like blended learning and PDL. And like I said, provide tutoring opportunities, progress monitoring, targeted students with the remediation program. So this is actually, we are invested. This was part of our PDSA plan. And hopefully we get the results that we're looking for with all of the strategies, interventions, and skills we're implementing with 6th grade science. So remediation lessons. Again, Dr. Gear, thank you again for kind of saying plan backwards. So what are you going to do? You're going to give them their half-day planning. What kind of lessons they're going to come up with? Well, the biggest thing that the students struggle with is plant vocabulary, which is a lot of Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary words that the students are just having a hard time to grasp. We're also going to implement iPad activities with Gizmo lessons, Quizlets, and more hands-on activities. A lot of apps, a lot of fun, kind of innovative lessons to reach these students, because like you stated, they're not learning in the classroom. So what alternative lessons, alternative strategies are we going to use for these students? More visuals, diagrams. We're going to color in parts of a flower. You know, make it fun. You know, we don't want to make it dry and boring. We want to make it innovative, creative, and just really make it look fun. We don't want it to be a bore to the students. We're trying to really make this energetic, innovative, and creative, and basically, you know, a lot of group work, a lot of cooperative learning activities. They're working together to accomplish the task at hand. And we're going to reteach a lot of Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary words. A lot of these words our students will be exposed to, like photosynthesis, fertilization, hydrotropism, germination, vascular, non-vascular, fungi, monocot, dicot, tropism, sexual and asexual reproduction. As you can see with these words, these Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary words, you can see probably why some 11-year-olds struggle with this, because they've never been exposed to this type of vocabulary before, and that's why it's a hard thing for them to grasp with these Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary words. It's basically, you got to drill and skill. You really got to understand and apply these words into the science lessons, and looking at some Bloom's taxonomy of, you know, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating their own thoughts and ideas from the content being bestowed to them. Oh, so how do we choose and how do we get these students, and how are we tracking them? Okay, so these students have not mastered the plant standards. They can work their way out of the remediation program if they score above an 80 on the remediation assessment. So, for example, if a student failed their remediation, their science assessment, they're in the remediation program, then they get retested on Friday. They're in the remediation program Wednesday, Thursday for remediating, for reassessing, and then they retest on Friday. If they get above an 80 on the retest, they're out. So they have a goal in mind that if they don't want to be in the remediation program or nest time, they can work their way out. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We want them to master science standards and improve scores on district and state assessments, and data spreadsheets to discuss trends and patterns. And I'll share that with you right now as to how we track these students. And basically what we did was we started implementing this around the end of September, and we wanted to analyze the data and see how we performed on our district plant benchmark tests and whether or not students benefited from the remediation program. So here's our spreadsheet. Here's our three science teachers. Teacher one was the remediation teacher. So teacher one taught all of these students right here in the remediation program. Then teacher two will teach energy remediation. Teacher three will teach weather remediation. The three major units in science. And the fourth one is animals, and our fourth new science teacher will remediate. So teacher one was the remediation teacher. So teacher one taught all 30 of these students Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I tracked the data, and most of the students did not work their way out of the remediation program. We had a few of them, but these were the most prevalent students that were in the remediation program. The 4 weeks that we implemented it. And as you can see, teacher one's students, these are actually her science students, and that accompanied her to the remediation program. As you can see, most of them were a couple white, with a mix, a couple white, Hispanic, and African American, 2 African Americans in her class. A lot of them on free and reduced lunch. You can see the gender for her class, mostly males. Only had 3 females in the remediation program in her class. Special ed students, she had 3 special ed. This is a little skewed because our special ed students, our intensive special ed students, are getting their intensive intervention right now. During the remediation program, they're actually getting taught Language X, which is our intensive remediation, our intensive intervention for response to intervention. So they were unable to attend the science remediation program because they were getting their 90-minute ELA class for their Tier 3 strategic intervention. So intensive intervention. So a lot of the special ed intensive students that are below the 10th percentile, were not able to attend the remediation program due to the logistics. Interventions, you should see a lot of these remediation students are already in strategic interventions like co-teaching and strategies and VMath, a lot of VMath and Read 180, strategic tier 2 interventions. ESOL intervention, VMath, co-teaching. Let's see how they did on the science benchmark. This student got a 60. The school average was a 69. The district average was a 64. So, again, this student didn't, even though the student went through remediation, did not meet the standard. This student right here got a 40 on the benchmark. Obviously, that was below the school and the district average. A couple students were absent during the test. This student right here got a 73, so this student benefited from the remediation program compared to the school and district average. This student as well did fairly well, scoring above the district average, who's a special ed student in strategic interventions and a remediation program, so this student did really well. ESOL student got a 60, a little bit below where we want them. We want to see, this is a gauge right here, the district average. We kind of want the students to be around the district average. It's a good indicator of if they're mastering content or not. And of course, the school average, we exceeded the district, which was great. This student right here is 77, which is great. In some strategic intervention, special ed student, this is what we need to do. We need to move these special ed students forward. And a couple of them actually did really well, so we're really proud of her special ed kids. This student right here, African American female, on free and reduced lunch, did not meet the standard. Teacher 2, these teacher students were taught by teacher 1, the remediation teacher, and these students actually benefited really well. See, this teacher doesn't even teach these students, but these students did very well under her guidance in the remediation program. So we got a 96 here from a white female in a strategic intervention. 96 on the benchmark is phenomenal. Another white male in the Read 180 intervention got an 80. So these classes, I'm not going to go every single score with you, but this teacher's students did very well with the remediation program. And then Teacher 3 was our lowest performing class right here. These students really did not very well under Teacher 3. This is Teacher 3 students, but Teacher 3 students, again, went to Teacher 1 for the remediation program. And these students did not do so well. An African American female in a strategic intervention class got a 43 in the benchmark, 46, and they have 26 here with an ESOL Hispanic, 60 not too bad with a white male with no interventions, and then a white male 60 right here, and then a white female in a writing class got a 66. So good results with Teacher 1 and Teacher 2, but Teacher 3's results, a little cause for concern right here, so we got to maybe more focus on Teacher 3 and see how we can help her along the way and get these scores where they need to be. So again, I tracked 30 kids, 14 boys, 16 girls. We had 67% of these students on free and reduced lunch, and actually the school's free and reduced lunch is 48.62. So a little more higher percentage with these remediation students, but the school is at 48.62. So that's our data spreadsheet. So here's the assessment component. You saw the data, and what do you see? Do you see any patterns and trends of data? Like your feedback on this. What would be your next step in the remediation program? If you were running this program, what would you do next to have the program to be implemented with fidelity? And what have you learned? What are your suggestions to make a remediation program more successful? And which teacher had the best and worst results? I kind of answer that for you and support your answer as to why or how, or any feedback would be great. And how would you implement PD for these teachers? I talked about observing master teachers, half-day planning. We got collaboration going on, but any other PD for these teachers, how would you do that? So where do we go from here? Science collaboration team will break down benchmark data through item analysis to standards students still haven't mastered. So we're going to look at the individual standards and incorporate, we're not, even though we're going to be teaching energy currently, we're not just going to say, we're going to leave plants behind. We're also going to put some plant questions in some assessments. So what standards students haven't mastered, we're also going to revisit those standards in assessment. So on the 25 assessment, quiz or test, 5 questions may still come from plants. So we're not just going to leave plants, in the dust. We're still going to continue reviewing those standards students haven't mastered. Next unit of study is energy. We'll see if the same students are identified in the remediation program. Let's see if there's a pattern of these same students popping back up with the energy unit. And we're getting good feedback from it. The science teachers really feel it is beneficial. They're happy with the program. Some we had really great gains with our science benchmark, but we also had some concerns, and we would definitely need to identify some more specific strategies, specifically for Teacher 3, and more PD with planning and implementing remediation lessons and assessments. It's continuous, ongoing. I just think we're going to continue implementing PD, and hopefully by the end of the school year it'll be really beneficial, and we're getting the results that we're looking for with 6th grade science. And that is the end of my professional development presentation on remediation programs. I hope you felt it was beneficial. I'm still learning a lot, and implementing a program at a school, it's not as easy as it sounds. There's a lot of logistics, a lot of mitigating factors that you have to go through to implement this, but I don't want this remediation program to phase out. I also want to branch a remediation program to all of the subject areas and all of the schools. And 6th grade science is our test, basically our test subject, or guinea pig right now. And hopefully one day or one year we can have a remediation program through all content areas throughout and across all grade levels. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my professional development project, and have a great day.